Have you ever looked at a painting, a song, or even a TikTok dance and thought, wait, is this really art? Why is a painting of Campbell's soup cans in the Museum of Modern Art, while your doodle on a napkin is just a doodle? What separates art from everything else we create? Today we're going to dig deep into this question. What makes something art? And along the way, we'll pull in philosophy, psychology, real-life examples, and some surprising research. Let's delve into the eternal question. This question, what makes something art, isn't new. Philosophers have been debating it for centuries. Plato thought art was mimesis, a mere imitation of reality. For him, art was a shadow of truth, always one step removed from what is real. Aristotle, on the other hand, saw art as catharsis. Theater, poetry, and music allowed us to release emotions safely. Fast forward to the 20th century, the philosopher Arthur Danto argued that art isn't about beauty at all. It's about meaning. For him, what made Andy Warhol's Brillo boxes art wasn't how they looked, but the context. Warhol was asking us to see everyday objects differently. So already we can see a split. Some say art is about representation, others say it's about emotional experience, and others say it's about ideas. But how do we everyday people decide what art is? Now, let's talk about art and beauty. For much of history, art was tied to beauty. Renaissance paintings, for example, were admired for their symmetry, harmony, and ability to capture the human form. When Michelangelo sculpted the David, people saw art as reaching toward perfection, toward an ideal beauty. Even today, many people still think of art in terms of beauty. If it's pleasing to the eye or ear, it must be art. But here's the twist. Modern and contemporary art challenge this idea. Take Marcel Duchamp's famous piece, Fountain, a porcelain urinal he submitted to an art show in 1917. The work wasn't beautiful in the traditional sense, but it forced viewers to confront the question, if an artist declares something as art, and we're asked to see it in a new way, doesn't that make it art? Art historians often mark this as the birth of conceptual art. The beauty wasn't in the urinal itself, it was in the idea. Now, I want to talk about arts as expression. The philosopher R. Gia Collingwood argued that art is the expression of emotion. It's not about decoration or entertainment. It's about taking inner feelings and making them shareable. Think about Vincent van Gogh. His Starry Night isn't just about accurately depicting a sky. The swirling brushstrokes, the vibrating colors, they communicate Van Gogh's inner turmoil and wonder. Psychologists have studied this too. A 2016 study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that people tend to value art more highly when they believe it expresses authentic emotion. In other words, if you think the artist meant it, you're more likely to call it art. That might be why even rough sketches in a diary feel more like art than a stock photo. One carries emotion, the other just carries information. But expression isn't enough either. Context matters a lot. So let's talk about art and context. Take the infamous banana duct taped to a wall by artist Maurizio Cattelan in 2019. It sold for $120,000. Was it art? If you taped a banana to your kitchen wall, would it be the same thing? This is where sociologist Howard Becker's idea of the art world comes in. In his book, Art Worlds, 1982, Becker argued that art is a collective activity. It's not just the artist who decides, but the galleries, the critics, the audience, the cultural institutions. So when a banana is taped to a wall in an art gallery surrounded by cameras and collectors, the context transforms it. The gallery says, look, this is art, and suddenly it is. This doesn't mean anything can be art. but it does mean art isn't created in isolation. It lives in a system of recognition. Let's switch gears to science. What does research say about how we perceive something as art? Neuroscientists have found that art activates multiple parts of the brain at once. The visual cortex processes shape and color. The amygdala responds to emotional content. The prefrontal cortex lights up when we interpret meaning. A 2011 study in Neuroimage found that when participants viewed paintings they considered beautiful, their brain's reward system lit up, the same system that responds to food or music. But when the same people viewed ugly or confusing art, the brain still activated, only in areas linked to cognitive problem solving. In other words, even if you don't like a piece of art, your brain still works hard to interpret it. This explains why abstract art, like Jackson Pollock's splatters, can still move us. Our brains are wired to search for meaning, to find patterns. Art taps into that deep need. Now here's a thought. Maybe art isn't limited to galleries or museums at all. Psychologist Ellen Dissanayake, in her book Homo Aestheticus, argues that humans are inherently artistic. She says art is about making special. Whenever we decorate, ritualize, or elevate something beyond the ordinary, we're engaging in art. Think about birthday cakes, tattoos, street graffiti, even memes. They may not hang in the Louvre, but they're all ways of making special. This challenges the elitist view of art as something only professionals create. By this definition, your doodles, your homemade songs, your Instagram photos, they're art too because they transform ordinary life into something meaningful. Art also plays a social role. Protest art, like Banksy's graffiti, critiques power and sparks dialogue. Religious art, from stained glass windows to Buddhist mandalas, unites communities and focuses devotion. National anthems, films, and public monuments serve as shared cultural touchstones. A 2018 study in Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity, and the Arts found that people are more likely to view something as art when it seems to serve a social or cultural purpose, not just individual expression. So art isn't just personal, it's collective. It shapes identity and community. So, what makes something art? At this point, you might be thinking, so which is it? Beauty, expression, meaning, context, community? The truth is, art doesn't have a single definition. Philosopher Morris Weitz called art an open concept. It can't be pinned down by strict rules. Instead, it's more like a family resemblance. Different artworks share overlapping features, but not all the same ones. A song, a sculpture, a novel, and a video game might all be art, but for different reasons. Maybe that's the point. Art resists being boxed in. Its power lies in its ambiguity. So, I ask again, what makes something art? It's not just beauty, it's not just expression, it's not just context, it's the combination of these things, the human impulse to create, the social systems that give it meaning, and the personal emotions it stirs in us. Art, in a sense, is a mirror. Sometimes it reflects reality, sometimes it reflects the artist's mind, and sometimes it reflects us, the audience, struggling to interpret it. And maybe that's why it matters. Because in trying to answer the question, what is art? We're also answering the question, what does it mean to be human? So the next time you see a strange painting or hear a song that moves you or laugh at a meme online, ask yourself, is this art? And more importantly, why do you feel that way? Because in the end, maybe art isn't about objects at all. Maybe it's about what happens between us and the world when we pause, pay attention, and let meaning take shape.